Today we're diving into the macabre story of John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown that terrorized the suburbs of Chicago in the 1970s. Now, if this is your kind of content and are a true crime fan, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any future content. Hit the like button and the bell notification so you don't miss any of it. So as usual, dear viewers, dim the lights, grab a drink, lock the doors. This is the disturbing and sick tale of serial killer John Wayne Gacy. Now, before we get started, I just want to caveat something. I mentioned killer clown, but that is just a common misconception. He never killed anybody wearing the suit that we know of. It was a front. But we'll go into more detail on that in this video. John Wayne Gacy was born on the 17th of March, 1942 in Chicago, Illinois, United States of America, to Marion Elaine Robinson and John Stanley Gacy. He had two sisters and was the only son in the family. Despite his seemingly normal upbringing, Gacy experienced a troubled childhood, suffering physical and emotional abuse at the hands of his alcoholic father. Gacy struggled with feelings of inadequacy as he could never seem to gain his father's approval. This strained relationship with his father would shape Gacy's life in unimaginable ways. What a shock, eh? A bad relationship with parents. As a teenager, Gacy faced health issues, including a heart condition that restricted his physical activities. This led to weight gain, further isolating him from his peers and contributing to his low self-esteem. Despite his challenges, Gacy excelled in school, showing an interest in politics and community engagement. He took that a bit too literally, right? As he grew older, Gacy developed a double life, portraying himself as a successful businessman and active community member, while hiding a much darker side. In 1964, he married Marilyn Myers, and the couple had two children. Gacy's first known criminal act occurred in 1968, when he was convicted of sexually assaulting two teenage boys. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison, but was released on parole after just 18 months. This leads me to the question, if society had been a bit more accepting towards homosexuality through the 60s and 80s, could some of these serial killers not have gone down this path? You never know. I don't want to, of course, put all the blame on that, but these sort of mental pressures can affect people. Following his release, Gacy remarried and moved to the suburbs of Chicago. He started a successful construction business and became an active participant in local politics, even running for a position on the Democratic Party committee. Gacy's affable personality and seemingly upstanding life helped him gain the trust of his community, making it easier for him to hide his depraved activities. Gacy's sinister alter ego emerged in the 1970s, when he began a series of gruesome murders that would shock the nation. As a respected member of his community, Gacy was able to avoid suspicion for years, hosting elaborate parties and even performing as a clown at children's events under the name Pogo. Little did anyone know that beneath the cheerful facade, a sadistic killer was lurking, waiting for his next victim. And you do usually find this with serial killers. They have this real charm offensive in their arsenal that they use to trick people around them. However, the important thing when looking at serial killers, or if you believe you're around one, look for substance and depth. They tend to struggle with that. Once his victims were inside his home, Gacy would often engage them in conversation, gaining their confidence before revealing his true intentions. He would then employ a ruse he called the handcuff trick, convincing his victims to try on handcuffs as part of a magic trick or game. Once they were restrained, Gacy would reveal that he had the key and proceed to torture, sexually assault, and ultimately strangle his victims to death with a tourniquet. Now, I'm just going to put a tourniquet up on screen here. Now, if you aren't aware, it's traditionally used in medicine to stop life-threatening external bleeding, but he used them for more sinister purposes. So I can't even begin to imagine what his victims had gone through during this struggle. Gacy buried 26 of his victims in the crawl space beneath his house, while others were dumped in nearby rivers when he ran out of room on his property. To dispose of the bodies, Gacy would wrap them in plastic sheets or cloth and often place lime or quicklime over them to speed up decomposition. The smell of decaying bodies permeated his home, but Gacy managed to keep his crimes hidden by attributing the odour to a sewage problem. Disguising a disgusting smell as something else. Who does that remind you of? Throughout his killing spree, Gacy maintained his public persona as a respected businessman and community leader. He continued to perform as Pogo the Clown at children's parties and charitable events, earning him the nickname the Killer Clown. Gacy's ability to keep his secret life hidden allowed him to continue his gruesome crimes undetected for years. The true extent of Gacy's horrifying crimes wouldn't be discovered until December 1978, when 15-year-old Robert Peast went missing after leaving work. Peast was last seen talking to Gacy about a potential job opportunity, and this conversation caught the attention of investigators. As they dug deeper into Gacy's past, they began to uncover the grim reality of his hidden life, eventually leading to the discovery of the bodies buried beneath his home. The search for Robert Peast led investigators to Gacy's home, where they found a high school class ring and other personal belongings of young men who had been reported missing. Serial killers always keep trophies. Look for a box. With this evidence, they obtained a search warrant for Gacy's house on the 13th of December 1978. The subsequent search, unsurprisingly, revealed the grim truth, as the bodies of his victims were unearthed one by one from the crawl space beneath his house. Gacy was arrested on the 21st of December 1978 and charged with multiple counts of murder. As investigators continued to uncover the remains of Gacy's victims, the sheer magnitude of his crimes became apparent. Gacy eventually confessed to killing 33 young men and boys, providing gruesome details of his murders, including how he had buried most of his victims beneath his house. Gacy's trial began on the 6th of February 1980 in Chicago, with the nation and the world watching closely. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence against Gacy, including forensic evidence from his home, personal belongings of the victims, and Gacy's own confession. The defence, on the other hand, sought to argue that Gacy was not guilty by reason of insanity. They claimed that his abusive childhood and multiple personality disorder had led him to commit these heinous acts. The trial lasted 5 weeks, and Gacy's defence team called numerous expert witnesses to testify on his mental state. However, the jury wasn't swayed by Gacy's defence. After less than 2 hours of deliberation, they found him guilty of all charges on the 13th of March 1980. The judge sentenced Gacy to death for each of the 12 counts of murder for which he was tried, a symbolic gesture to emphasise the magnitude of his crimes. John Wayne Gacy was sent to Menard Correctional Centre in Illinois to await execution. He spent 14 years on death row, during which time he began painting and even corresponded with fans and collectors of his artwork. Many found this disturbing, as Gacy seemed to be profiting from his notoriety as a serial killer. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure in the UK you can't profit if you're in prison. Can you in the US still make money if you're in prison? On death row? On the 10th of May 1994, John Wayne Gacy was executed by lethal injection at Stateville Correctional Centre in Joliet, Illinois. His final words are reported to be, "Kiss my ass." The execution marked the end of one of the most notorious serial killer cases in American history. But the memory of Gacy's horrific crimes continues to haunt the families of his victims and the nation as a whole. And that brings to a close today's episode about John Wayne Gacy. Again, it reminds us to remain ever vigilant that these dark and twisted individuals do lurk among us, not only in the shadows, but out in the light as well. If you did enjoy this video as much as you can, given the content, please again do subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment as well, and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any future episodes. Thank you again for tuning in and watching.